9. Reconstruction of the dog's ball incident. Well, Poirot, I said, as the gate of Little Greenhouse closed behind us. You are satisfied now, I hope. Yes, my friend. I am satisfied. Thank heavens for that. All the mysteries explained. The wicked companion and the rich old lady myth exploded. The delayed letter and even the famous incident of the dog's ball shone in their true colors. Everything settled satisfactorily and according to Cocker. Poirot gave a dry little cough and said, "Would not use the word satisfactorily, Hastings. You did a minute ago." No. I did not say the matter was satisfactory. I said that personally, my curiosity was satisfied. I know the truth of the dog's ball incident. And very simple it was too. Not quite so simple as you think. He nodded his head several times. Then he went on, "You see, I know one little thing which you do not." "And what is that?" I asked somewhat skeptically. "I know that there is a nail driven into the skirting board at the top of the stairs." I stared at him. His face was quite grave. "Well," I said after a minute or two. "Why shouldn't there be?" "The question is, Hastings, why should there be?" "How do I know?" "Some household reason, perhaps." "Does it matter?" "Certainly it matters. And I think of no household reason for a nail to be driven in at the top of the skirting board in that particular place. It was carefully varnished, too, so as not to show. What are you driving at, Poirot? Do you know the reason?" "I can imagine it quite easily. If you wanted to stretch a piece of strong thread or wire across the top of the stairs about a foot from the ground, you could tie it on one side to the balusters, but on the inner wall side you would need something like a nail to attach the thread to." "Poirot!" I cried. "What on earth are you driving at?" "Mon cher ami, I am reconstructing the incident of the dog's ball." "Would you like to hear my reconstruction?" "Go ahead." "Eh bien, here it is. Someone had noticed the habit Bob had of leaving his ball at the top of the stairs. A dangerous thing to do. It might lead to an accident." Poirot paused a minute, then said in a slightly different tone. "If you wished to kill someone, Hastings, how would you set about it?" Well really, I don't know. Fake up some alibi or something, I suppose. A proceeding, I assure you, both difficult and dangerous. But then you are not the type of a cold-blooded cautious murderer. Does it not strike you that the easiest way of removing someone you want to remove from your path is to take advantage of accident? Accidents are happening all the time. And sometimes, Hastings, they can be helped to happen. He paused a minute then went on, "I think the dog's ball left so fortuitously at the top of the stairs gave our murderer an idea. Miss Arundel was in the habit of coming out of her room in the night and wandering about. Her eyesight was not good. It was quite within the bounds of probability that she might stumble over it and fall headlong down those stairs. But a careful murderer does not leave things to chance. A thread stretched across the top of the stairs would be a much better way. It would send her pitching head foremost. Then, when the household come rushing out, there, plain to see, is the cause of the accident, Bob's ball." "How horrible!" I cried. Poirot said, gravely, "Yes, it was horrible. It was also unsuccessful. Miss Arundel was very little hurt though she might easily have broken her neck. Very disappointing for our unknown friend. But Miss Arundel was a sharp-witted old lady. Everyone told her she had slipped on the ball, and there the ball was in evidence, but she herself recalling the happening felt that the accident had arisen differently. She had not slipped on the ball. And in addition she remembered something else. She remembered hearing Bob barking for admission at 5 o'clock the next morning. This, I admit, is something in the way of guesswork, but I believe I am right. Miss Arundel had put away Bob's ball herself the evening before in its drawer. After that he went out and did not return. In that case it was not Bob who put that ball on the top of the stairs. That is pure guesswork, Poirot, I objected. He demurred. Not quite, my friend. There are the significant words uttered by Miss Arundel when she was delirious, something about Bob's ball and a picture ajar. You see the point, do you not? Not in the least. Curious. I know your language well enough to realize that one does not talk of a picture being ajar. A door is ajar. A picture is awry. Or simply crooked. Or simply crooked, as you say. So I realized at once that Ellen has mistaken the meaning of the words she heard. It is not ajar, but or the jar that was meant. Now in the drawing room there is a rather noticeable china jar. There, I have already observed a picture of a dog on it. With the remembrance of these delirious ravings in my mind I go up and examine it more closely. I find that it deals with the subject of a dog who has been out all night. You see the trend of the feverish woman's thoughts. Bob was like the dog in the picture on the jar, out all night, so it was not he who left the ball on the stairs. I cried out, feeling some admiration in spite of myself. You're an ingenious devil, Poirot. How you think of these things beats me. I do not think of them. They are there, plain, for anyone to see. Eh bien, you realize the position. Miss Arundel, lying in bed after her fall, becomes suspicious. That suspicion she feels is perhaps fanciful and absurd, but there it is. Since the incident of the dog's ball I have been increasingly uneasy. And so she writes to me, and by a piece of bad luck her letter does not reach me until over 2 months have gone by. Tell me, does her letter not fit in perfectly with these facts? Yes, I admitted. It does. Poirot went on, there is another point worthy of consideration. Miss Lawson was exceedingly anxious that the fact of Bob's being out all night should not get to Miss Arundel's ears. You think that I think that the fact should be noted very carefully. I turned the thing over in my mind for a minute or two. Well, I said at last with a sigh, it's all very interesting, as a mental exercise that is. And I take off my hat to you. It's been a masterful piece of reconstruction. It's almost a pity really that the old lady has died. A pity, yes. She wrote to me that someone had attempted to murder her. That is what it amounts to, after all, and a very short time after, she was dead. Yes, I said. And it's a grand disappointment to you that she died a natural death, isn't it? Come, admit it. Poirot shrugged his shoulders. Or perhaps you think she was poisoned, I said maliciously. Poirot shook his head somewhat despondently. It certainly seems, he admitted, as though Miss Arundel died from natural causes. And therefore, I said, we return to London with our tail between our legs. Pardon, my friend, but we do not return to London. What do you mean, Poirot? I cried. If you show the dog the rabbit, my friend, does he return to London? No, he goes into the rabbit hole. What do you mean? The dog hunts rabbits. Hercule Poirot hunts murderers. We have here a murderer whose crime failed, yes, perhaps, but nevertheless a murderer. And I, my friend, am going into the burrow after him, or her as the case may be. He turned sharply in at the gate. Where are you off to, Poirot? Into the burrow, my friend. This is the house of Dr. Granger who attended Miss Arundel in her last illness. Dr. Granger was a man of 60-odd. His face was thin and bony with an aggressive chin, bushy eyebrows, and a pair of very shrewd eyes. He looked keenly from me to Poirot. Well, what can I do for you? He asked abruptly. Poirot swept into speech in the most flamboyant manner. I must apologize, Dr. Granger, for this intrusion. I must confess straight away that I do not come to consult you professionally. Dr. Granger said drily, glad to hear it. You look healthy enough. I must explain the purpose of my visit, went on Poirot. The truth of the matter is that I am writing a book, The Life of the Late General Arundel, who I understand lived in Market Basing for some years before his death. The doctor looked rather surprised. Yes, General Arundel lived here till his death. At Little Green House, just up the road past the bank. You've been there, perhaps. Poirot nodded assent. But you understand that was a good bit before my time. I came here in 1919. You knew his daughter, however, the late Miss Arundel. I knew Emily Arundel well. You comprehend, it has been a severe blow to me to find that Miss Arundel has recently died. End of April. So I discovered. I counted, you see, on her giving me various personal details and reminiscences of her father. Quite. But I don't see what I can do about it. Poirot asked. General Arundel has no other sons or daughters living. No. All dead, the lot of them. How many were there? 5. 4 daughters, 1 son. And in the next generation? Charles Arundel and his sister Teresa. You could get on to them. I doubt, though, if it would be much use to you. The younger generation doesn't take much interest in its grandfathers. And there's a Mrs. Tanios, but I doubt if you'd get much there either. They might have family papers, documents. They might have. Doubt it, though. A lot of stuff was cleared out and burnt after Miss Emily's death, I know. Poirot uttered a groan of anguish. Granger looked at him curiously. What's the interest in old Arundel? I never heard he was a big pot in any way. My dear sir. Poirot's eyes gleamed with the excitement of the fanatic. Is there not a saying that history knows nothing of its greatest men? Recently certain papers have come to light which throw an entirely different light on the whole subject of the Indian Mutiny. There is secret history there. And in that secret history John Arundel played a big part. The whole thing is fascinating. And let me tell you, my dear sir, it is of a special interest at the present time. India, the English policy in regard to it, is the burning question of the hour. Said the doctor. I have heard that old General Arundel used to hold forth a good deal on the subject of the mutiny. As a matter of fact, he was considered a prize bore on the subject. Who told you that? A Miss Peabody. You might call on her, by the way. She's our oldest inhabitant, knew the Arundels intimately. And gossip is her chief recreation. She's worth seeing for her own sake, a character. Thank you. That is an excellent idea. Perhaps too you would give me the address of young Mr. Arundel, the grandson of the late General Arundel. Charles. Yes, I can put you on to him. But he's an irreverent young devil. Family history means nothing to him. He is quite young. He's what an old fogey like me calls young, said the doctor with a twinkle. Early 30s. The kind of young man that's born to be a trouble and responsibility to their families. Charm of personality and nothing else. He's been shipped about all over the world and done no good anywhere. His aunt was doubtless fond of him, ventured Poirot. It is often that way. I don't know. Emily Arundel was no fool. As far as I know, he never succeeded in getting any money out of her. Bit of a tartar, that old lady. I liked her. Respected her too. An old soldier, every inch of her. Was her death sudden? Yes, in a way. Mind you, she'd been in poor health for some years. But she'd pulled through some narrow squeaks. There was some story. I apologize for repeating gossip. Poirot spread out his hands deprecatingly, that she had quarreled with her family. She didn't exactly quarrel with them, said Dr. Granger slowly. No, there was no open quarrel as far as I know. I beg your pardon. I am, perhaps, being indiscreet. No. After all, the information's public property. She left her money away from her family, I understand. Yes, left it all to a frightened, fluttering hen of a companion. Odd thing to do. Can't understand it myself. Not like her. Ah well, said Poirot thoughtfully. One can imagine such a thing happening. An old lady, frail and in ill health. Very dependent on the person who attends and cares for her. A clever woman with a certain amount of personality could gain a great ascendancy that way. The word ascendancy seemed to act like a red rag to a bull. Dr. Granger snorted out, ascendancy. Ascendancy. Nothing of the kind. Emily Arundel treated Minnie Lawson worse than a dog. Characteristic of that generation. Anyway, women who earn their living as companions are usually fools. If they've got brains, they're earning a better living some other way. Emily Arundel didn't suffer fools gladly. She usually wore out one poor devil a year. Ascendancy. Nothing of the sort. Poirot hastened off the treacherous ground. It is possible, perhaps, he suggested, that there are old family letters and documents in this Miss Lawson's possession. Might be, agreed Granger. Usually are a lot of things tucked away in an old maid's house. I don't suppose Miss Lawson's been through half of it yet. Poirot rose. Thank you very much, Dr. Granger. You have been most kind. Don't thank me, said the doctor. Sorry, I can't do anything helpful. Miss Peabody's your best chance. Lives at Morton Manor, about a mile out. Poirot was sniffing at a large bouquet of roses on the doctor's table. Delicious, he murmured. Yes, I suppose so. Can't smell, am myself. Lost my sense of smell when I had flu 4 years ago. Nice admission for a doctor. Physician, heal thyself. Damned nuisance. Can't enjoy a smoke as I used to. Unfortunate, yes. By the way, you will give me young Arundel's address. I can get it for you, yes. He ushered us out into the hall and called, Donaldson. My partner, he explained. He should have it all right. He's by way of being engaged to Charles's sister, Teresa. He called again, Donaldson. A young man came out from a room at the back of the house. He was of medium height and of rather colorless appearance. His manner was precise. A greater contrast to Dr. Granger could not be imagined. The latter explained what he wanted. Dr. Donaldson's eyes, very pale blue eyes slightly prominent, swept over us appraisingly. When he spoke it was in a dry, precise manner. I don't know exactly where Charles is to be found, he said. I can give you Miss Teresa Arundel's address. Doubtless she will be able to put you in touch with her brother. Poirot assured him that that would do perfectly. The doctor wrote down an address on a page of his notebook, tore it out and handed it to Poirot. Poirot thanked him and said goodbye to both doctors. As we went out of the door I was conscious of Dr. Donaldson standing in the hall peering after us with a slightly startled look on his face.